Oshawa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I am very pleased to stand and take my time to speak about Bill 52, an act to establish the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions. And it is always an important opportunity when we can talk about mental health. And I was just thinking sort of how far we've come as a society and as a broader community, that we speak more freely about mental health and addictions, that we have not just the language and the words, but we're starting to develop a compassion and an understanding broadly. However, those are conversations where the real work, or part of that real work, has to be, where do we go from here? And this is a very important piece to that story, is how do we make the change that we need to see across our communities, whether they be northern and rural, whether they're Oshawa, whether it's steep here in the heart of Toronto, or everywhere else across the province. We are in a common struggle. As we've heard, all of us that manage and maintain and do work in our constituency offices know that people don't ever walk through our door with just one issue. They come in with complex needs, and oftentimes there are mental health pieces, whether for themselves or with their family. But what we see is a patchwork system in this province. And as we've heard, what we're talking about today is creating a ministry, a standalone ministry that would have a finger in every one of those pies, that would be the home. And when we look at our communities, and I can't speak about your communities, but I can talk about Oshawa, and when we see folks who don't have a place to call their own, that don't have a safe space, that may not have affordable housing or appropriate or safe, predictable housing, when they find themselves living in precarious situations, oftentimes dealing with mental health, sometimes they're on this street or in our community tucked into nooks and crannies because of mental health, and sometimes the fact that they don't have a home or a place to be safe exacerbates or creates those conditions. But when you have an individual who doesn't have a space, they find themselves in our other institutions. They find themselves in our emergency rooms. They find themselves in our jails and facilities. They do not find themselves where they deserve to be, and that is somewhere supported. And I think when we think about those individuals, and I bet everyone in this room can put a face and a name and a personal story to someone that they know in their community, that they know in their office, that they know in their streets, that they know in their home communities. If we could find them a home, if we could get them the supports, what a difference that would make to them, what a difference that would make to their neighbors, to their future participation. So here we are, and I'm making that connection because we want a home for mental health. Mental health should not just have to wander a little bit in all of our systems. It needs a home. And to imagine a ministry that is responsible for all of the ways that mental health connects with our communities. We've talked about our youth, when we talk about our first responders, when we talk about our seniors, and everybody in between. These are folks who deserve appropriate designed supports, working with the front lines, working with the experts, working, with all of these recommendations that come time and time again. And how do we put that together? We've got all of these pieces, but we don't know what the picture on the puzzle box looks like. This is what that can look like. This is that puzzle box where we can actually piece something together that is going to make a difference and make all of us better. I'm coming here from committee. I was sitting in on Bill 6 with corrections, and there are a lot of conversations about mental health in our institutions and in our facility, but they talked about that continuity of care, that people who are living and working in our jails also, are from the community, go back to the community. We don't have any kind of continuous pathways. We have changes to our system, remembering that PTSD, which we've been talking about a lot in this legislature in these past 4 years, PTSD used to be an anxiety disorder. It's been reclassified now, DSM-5. But what that also means is that the people who have to diagnose our officers and our first responders and our folks with PTSD are psychiatrists and psychologists, no longer just your family doctor. Well, what does that mean? That means that up north, where they don't have psychiatrists and psychologists, does that mean they can't get a diagnosis? You've got unbelievable pieces to this that we have to bring all those parts together. We can talk about the waiting list. What if you can't get on a waiting list? What if you can't get a diagnosis? What happens to you? So to have a minister to stand up and have to answer questions, or to say, wow, I don't know, but I'll get back to you, and actually have a team to start to do that work, you would not just have a home, you would have not a patchwork system, you would be able to design a plan, a provincial plan that is in the best interest of all of Ontarians, all the Ontarians that we work for, that we work with, that we are. This is something that Ontarians deserve. Of course, I fully support this ministry. I've heard the criticisms, about bureaucracy. Better say the word correctly. Bureaucracy, but the idea that they think it should be in the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. It needs a home. Right now, we have a challenged ministry that is dealing with hallway medicine and all of these other things. I don't want to just add one more log to that fire. I want to address mental health and addictions, and this is an opportunity that we should all support. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you.